This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, cover everything sport, international and local. We bring you the best on the show and we cover all sorts of topics like mental health, gut health, and how important the brain is on performance and recovery. And what a treat I have in store for you today. Gulf United FC are in the building, but not only that, Stephen Taylor is on the Halftime Show. That's right, I did not stutter. Stephen Taylor stops by to discuss his premiership career, what he's doing at the moment now, his new project, resetting the current Newcastle situation, and all that and more on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, cover everything sport, international and local. What a privilege to have Stephen Taylor and Gulf United FC in the building today. Shout out to them and thank you very much for all your questions coming in towards the Instagram live at Omar Adori, letting us know about all these fantastic things you want to ask Stephen. Stephen and Geordie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. Thank you very much.
That's it. That's the spirit we're having on the show today. Pleasure. And listen, Steve, I want to ask you, man, like, how's life in football now? You've obviously played at the highest level and you're still involved in football. How is life in football at the moment?
For me, it's been good. I think leaving the game was 6 months ago and coming out to Dubai, taking some time off, still doing a bit of fitness, then sitting down with Gulf United over a coffee and understand the kind of project that they were wanting me to get involved with, and coming down to watch the trialists get, like loads of trialists basically coming, 150 Africans coming here to train and seeing how the Gulf setup is, and the opportunity that risen there with myself and Geordie to take charge of the team. And it was exciting for me to stay in the game. It's something that I've always wanted to do after football, and to get in this early now is great, and to see the young players how hungry they are now, and it's an exciting project.
And Geordie, how is it to have the big man on?
It's fantastic, yeah. The experience he brings to the young guys, just these little words here and there. When someone like Stephen tells you you have to listen, he really brings a lot to it. And of course, his name is helping Gulf United's name grow. But regardless of his name, what he actually does and brings on a day-to-day basis is a lot.
And on a day-to-day basis, what kind of things do you do, obviously, with them, Stephen? Because you handle the first team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of stuff do you do with them now? Having come in, it's been like a couple of months now. You said it was.
Yes, it was. I think it's been 2 or 3 months now, yeah. Basically, all my managers I've had over my whole career, I've gone from Bobby Robson, the Kevin Keegans of the world, and you pick up a little bit of everything. And for me, as the modern day football comes now, I think it's about dealing with the individual players. And for myself and Geordie, we put on sessions that I know the boys can do. You can't take them out of the comfort zone. It's kind of understanding the characters that they are, what they can do, what they can't do. And it's about them confidence, and I think you can see with the players that, especially we've got them playing with full of confidence, and it's nice to be around that. I think spend a lot of time individually talking to them and explaining day to day. You've got to keep reminding them a lot, but I think a lot of the managers I've had in the past, they kind of just forget about going into detail with individual players, and the modern day football, they need that. Every single footballer I've known is they've got some insecurity about them. It doesn't matter how much they train or whatever it is on a match day, they have that nerves and they're going to have that doubt. And I think for us, it's our kind of responsibility is give them the tools for them to go and deliver. And all we want to say to them is express yourselves and enjoy it, but stick to the kind of game plans that we put in place, and it's something that's going to help the team, not just individual.
And football has evolved, and obviously the psychology behind it. You're speaking in the sense of the almost the right balance between the old school and the new school. How important is it to stay relevant in the new school with the sports science compared to the old school from the coaches that have coached you?
What's helped me massive, I think, the likes of Geordie. He's been around that. His family, for example, involved with Manchester United. They understand the old school kind of era that we used to have, the respect with the experienced players, the young players, and what we demand from that. We do have that bit of experience coming in the squad, which helps the younger players, which I think you need, and they need that bit of guidance. So we have some English players there to help the African players to do the basics, and I think that's the biggest thing out here is doing the basics, because a lot of modern day footballers now, especially the young lads, very rarely will they watch a full games, and especially watching the Premier League, whether watch a Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, they're kind of watching FIFA or what's on social media. And we're big on, especially Geordie as well, is making sure the lads get the rest of recovery, the sleep, because during the night with the time difference back to the countries that they're from and all that, so you've got to manage all this kind of stuff as well. And if the opportunity these have as well, I think we had a player who played literally three games, I think, and he got a move to a European side. That's the kind of opportunity these lads have, and any team that comes along, if they want a player, we let them go. We don't stand in there and want them to stay here. We want to push them on to the next level, and it's kind of something that we're building now with these young players. And for the foundations that Geordie and Coach Mo have put in place here for golfing, it's definitely making a lot of noise here, but I think in a good way, especially for the young talent, is giving the lads who have never had that chance, coming from the places that they've come from, because they've been overlooked. But this is what I loved about it, was the platform when I played with Papi Cissé and Cheikh Tiodi, understanding their background, what it is like in Senegal, Ivory Coast. Because as a young lad, we probably took it for granted in England, and we never seen that kind of side of things. And I think a lot of people in Dubai, they're probably the unbelievable footballers, but they don't get that kind of chance. What Golf United are doing now is giving the lads who have been less fortunate in their countries and stuff, sorting them out, looking after place to live, looking after food, making sure they're taken care of. These sort of things, getting to the buses to get them to training, so they don't have to worry about anything. All they have to do is rest, recover, and play. And it's great to be part of that.
Fantastic. Geordie, tell me more about Golf United. Obviously, I've had a close look at them. I've seen the amazing things you guys are doing. Tell me more about how it started and when it started to now, obviously, the evolution of that.
Yeah, so it started a relatively short time ago. This is only our third year. We started as an academy. So we've got nearly 200 players from all the age of 7 and 8 all the way up to the first team now, and we try and play the same way throughout. And we thought it was really important to develop a first team so that all of these kids have a pathway to look up to. And it's different models and different type of kids in the club. We've got some who are more similar to the first team players, where they're coming from difficult backgrounds, and we help those. And also it's a lot of expat kids who are some of the best players in the region, some of the best players on the school teams, etc. And it's a good mix. We have I think 49 nationalities in the club, and it's a fantastic mix. It's good fun. And in terms of the first team, obviously this is the first season that we're playing as a professional team, and we're working on moving up the leagues, but at the same time working on moving on individual players and just giving them a platform to show themselves. And as Stevie said, already one has gone. We've got our eyes on 3 or 4 more who, if they perform well, we'll just pick up the phone. But of course, Stephen and my reputation's on the line, so we have to be sure that these guys are ready for the next level. And that's not just football-wise; it's also the professional side in terms of how you live, how you eat, how you sleep. Do you arrive on time to training? Because this is, to be honest, a bit of a problem with a lot of players when they first arrive, is they come from a different culture where it's not as strict on timings and things like that, and they don't put in the preparation in terms of sleeping well, eating well, that can make that 10-20%. And another thing that we really focus on is teaching them more the tactical side, because these boys are big, fast, strong. Technique is close to perfect, but it's just about spotting the patterns in games, working on experience, spotting the other team's weaknesses, and spotting your weaknesses and developing them and developing your strengths as well. So it's a really, really exciting project, and this is just the start.
Before we go to the break, it's something that obviously, speaking to coaches, there's that selflessness about you lot, that you bring these people on board, you develop them, opportunity comes, now you almost like help them move to the next level, but then your team is also affected by it. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it is a tough one, of course, but end of the day, we back ourselves to consistently find good players, and as soon as we can prove where we can get people, and there's a couple of internal discussions me and Stephen are having about particular players and the level they might be able to reach, and as soon as we can finalise these deals that we have, in the pipeline, it's not going to be any problem at all attracting players, because we have proved ourselves as a breeding ground and as kind of a football factory for particularly African and Asian players who probably feel overlooked, because in Europe these days, if you are even if you're 5 or 6 and you're good, Stevie, where he's from, Newcastle and Sunderland, would be all over him. Me, I'd probably have Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Everton. Nobody really falls through the net in England because of the infrastructure that's there. But some of these players in countries where that infrastructure is not there, they need to fight for that chance, and we can offer that chance to around 28 players per year, but we can't offer it to everyone. So we're not. I don't think we'll struggle to recruit once people see what we can do.
It's definitely exciting. I think when the players obviously leave to go, for the rest of the boys, there's the benchmark. That's where you got to go. It can happen. You've seen there's the example. Do you want to go there? How much do you actually want it? That's the biggest thing in football as well. Every game you go into, it's all about who wants it more. I don't care who you play against, how good they are. Confidence is the biggest thing in there for me. Seeing the lads there, how hungry they are now, seeing the likes of one of our players leaving to Europe, because that's every kid's dream. They want to go there to that next level, test themselves at the highest standard. So it's good for us to see that, and then you see what's worked and you keep going, and you've got to keep them hungry, and that's the biggest thing. And I think working with Jody as well, seeing him day to day when it's like how hungry he is, the confidence he gives the boys and stuff, and visually showing them what we want to do. And that's the biggest thing I think for them to learn, is show them visually.
Fantastic. We'll take a quick break, but I told you it was going to be good. We'll be right back after this on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. If you are kicking yourself for missing the show, don't worry. You can catch all of our episodes on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or if you prefer a visual, head over to the YouTube channel, type in Pulse 95 Radio, and you catch all of our episodes with our fantastic guests. Jordy Shields and Stephen Taylor are in the building. How you doing, boys?
Very well, thanks.
Very good, thanks.
I think our chats offline are just as good as the ones that we have on air. We were speaking just in the break about the modern player versus the old school player, the leaders. But one thing I'm really interested to pick your brains about is the Newcastle situation at the moment. Now, different times. You've seen good times as well at Newcastle, so that's something else which is great about this conversation. What's your take on the current Newcastle situation, and how far can they really go?
Well, the best thing that's happened is obviously the ownership. I think for Newcastle fans now, for many years, it's got back to the era where we had Bobby Robson in there. The old Kevin Keegan era, where it was the excitement, the fans coming in the game again. Because obviously with Mike Ashley, his regime there was just the fans of the hatred, and it was a matter of time, they're waiting to get on the players' backs, and frustration. I think they just basically want to voice their frustration at the game. It was a matter of time for them to do that. New ownership comes in. It's a complete new lease of life, and I think they've given that with Eddie Howe, breath of fresh air, and he's kind of been front foot football, creating a lot of chances and getting a lot of wins at the moment. I think that the front around the whole city of Newcastle is a footballing city. When you come up there, that's what everyone is about. The drink, eat, sleep. It's about football. When I played there, going to the local supermarket, the old grandmas are hammering me and say, "You better win this weekend." By the way, that's just how football is in Newcastle. It's a religion we've got, and you don't have that anywhere you go in the country. You go to London, they might talk about the weekend, the game, but Newcastle is all week. So for me now to have that kind of excitement back with the fans, and you can see the atmospheres now is electric. You talk about Gary Neville at the games, and he's doing the games. He goes, "This place is back to what it used to be." Because it's just one change, and now the ownership now have given that bit of freedom. New managers come in, and he's got the players playing well. And I think the lease of life, the players is confidence. Sometimes you got to remember when you got the fans have got that kind of anger. It shows with the players as well. Make mistakes, they go in the shell. I think they're playing with full of confidence. And that's the biggest thing for what Eddie Howe's got his players doing, and it's the best thing for us. And listen, it's not going to happen overnight. We understand that as Newcastle fans, but it could probably take 2, 3, 4 years. But I think the fans understand that kind of process now. The main thing for us now is staying in the league this year, and we'll build in the summer.
There was a skepticism about Eddie Howe coming on board at the time that he did, which now it's nice to see people kind of eating their words a little bit about that Hafton,
Yeah, I think when he was at Bournemouth, he did all he could with his limited resources for a long period of time, and there's obviously different tiers of clubs in the league, in the league system, and there's only so much you can do with the Bournemouth unless they get big investment.
Yeah.
But the potential is unlimited at Newcastle, and something I think they really deserve as a fan base, because they've had a tough few years, and they're still filling the stadium. They're still very keen, even through honestly some poor football, and the main thing really, as a football fan, that you hate to see is a bit of lack of ambition, where it was, let's stay in the league, let's spend as little as possible, so the owners can benefit as much as they can. But I think out of everyone, as Stevie said, I think they deserve it more than most. And Eddie Howe again deserves his shot, because he's done all he can with the opportunity that's been given, and then now it's now we're going to see how he can handle that pressure of expectation up the top of the league. So it'll be really interesting to see.
And Stevie, we were talking also off air about nowadays clubs aren't really run by the managers. Actually, they always change the terms to head coach rather than manager. That's also a transition after Wenger and Sir Alex left the game. How much of it is controlled by Eddie Howe compared to the ownership, the Saudi group, etc.?
Well, I haven't been back yet to see what's exactly going on behind the scenes, but from my experiences back in the day, there was a lot of people behind the scenes, calling the shots. Basically, they bring their own players in. This player needs to play. He's cost us 10 million. He has to play. And there's a situation what happened to me, to be honest, was played against Manchester United to start the season. Drew 0-0. Thought I did well. Thought I'd be playing next week, and I was out the side because I brought me playing for £10 million, and because I was with nothing came through the ranks, it cost the club nothing. They paid the £10 million player. They want to keep his asset value high to move on at the end of the season, and it was a thing where it was frustration, where politics was starting to come into football a bit.
Yeah.
But yes, it does happen. I think it happened a lot of the managers I had in Newcastle, where they were kind of controlled, and they didn't want to play certain players, but they had to, because upstairs were controlling it at the time. And I think you'll find that quite a bit in the Premier League with a lot of the clubs. I think when I first started in Newcastle, there wasn't many managers. I think with obviously Bobby Robson, there was Alex Ferguson, Wenger, Moyes, Mourinho were probably the only ones I thought would be able to call the shots. I think everybody else at the time were getting told from upstairs, and that was quite well known around from the players, speaking to other players in the teams.
And it's interesting you say that. How much do players communicate when all these things are happening? Because normally it's a tight dressing room, you don't really mention what's happening inside. But when it's happening to several clubs and several players are experiencing that, how easy is it for you to communicate, not just for the team, but for your mental health?
When you go in national duty, everyone talks. You find out, you're picking their brains, what's it like at their club, and the players who are probably out of favour are telling a few little things that's going on there.
Yeah.
When you're playing before the game, after the game, you're having to catch up with players, and a few things get said as well, and you start finding out a few things. But for me now, in the modern day football, the amount of money that's involved with TV money, like I said before, big politics, and you're losing that kind of the characters, the leaderships that you get back in the day. We talked about Manchester United before, about Roy Keane's. Where's the leaderships now with your Paul Scholes, your Giggs, your Beckhams, your Keanes, Vidiches, Evras, your Rooneys, Van Nistelrooy. The kind of fear factor that they brought to the Premier League. I remember we used to go to Old Trafford. I was always thinking, this is going to be a tough one. I think teams are going there now, thinking they can get results and stuff. And I don't know whether they've got the players that have that leadership that go back the years where they were successful. I think they've lost that.
When you said about Roy Keane and those kind of leaders, Premier League normally is up there for the league that everyone looks at. But if they're not going to be managers and coaches, you think they would implement, like, say, the Ajax system and put like a Van der Sar or an Overmars in those ranks to actually help the shape of where the club's going? Would that suit the modern type of coach, player?
Do you know what it is? I remember when I was first coming through, and Gary Speed, I remember he said he's seen some guy who wore some fancy boots, and he comes out, young kid, and the next one had a nice fancy car, and he goes, you know what it is? The game's gone. And I never understood back then what he meant. And as the game got older, and I think if you start speaking to ex-players now, they said, we don't even get involved in that. And when you ask them why, it's like what Jody touched upon before, just off air there, about Roy Keane with standards. They're not ready for it. They haven't got that. You can't buy that kind of character. That's one thing the modern day football they won't have, is the old school kind of characters from the old school era. I think a lot of the Premier League clubs would love for like a Roy Keane, a Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, John Terry. In the modern day now in the Premier League, how many characters can you honestly tell me where they can take the game by the scruff of the neck? Like a Steven Gerrard, for example. You've got your Keane, as we keep going on about him, but he's the biggest leader, and that's what Manchester United miss, is them sort of players. And even for myself, You know, when you got likes of Alan Shearer up front, you just got that belief you're going to go into games to win.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't play, it's like, bloody hell, it's going to be a tough game today. You got to have that kind of leadership and the kind of characters that I think the Premier League has lost that a lot. And I think it's down to money, agents a lot, and a lot of recycling every 6 to 12 months. Is just new players coming in and out instead of building a team for the future, which you say Alex Ferguson's did and Mourinho did.
Yeah, you know, still now, just before we wrap up, United are one of the biggest. I mean, I'm not a United fan at all, but United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. When you say that the standards, that you're saying that Keane's expecting too much, I remember growing up thinking, oh no, United are going to win it again. United are going to take this again. And now we talk about it, it's a very different feeling.
It certainly is, yeah, unfortunately.
You know, is that the business side overseeing the football side?
I think, as we mentioned, I think, you know, I don't want to get too involved in this because my dad still works at the club.
Okay.
But a lot of the criticism that people say is that it's not football people making the football decisions at the top. You know, with the Glazers and as the ownership. Probably in hindsight needed to have a little bit more patience with you know, maybe Moyes or maybe the one who came after him. But I guess we expected success from the get-go. And now we've chopped and changed, and now we've ended up with a squad of maybe 5 different managers, all different styles, not really any cohesion, not really any strategy. And I think, you know, unfortunately the fans are going to have to be patient because it will take a while, just the same way it did with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, to come in, give him some time, let him build his squad the way he wants to. And I think the key thing is signing players that fit the style you're trying to play and that the characters fit the club, rather than, you know, commercial signings and, you know, just getting the best player available regardless of whether, you know. So one thing that me and my friends mentioned was, I think we really wanted Sancho about 3 years ago, and then Rashford stepped up, Greenwood stepped up, but then they just had it in the head they needed to get him when we had clear holes in other positions that they needed to replace. Centre midfield, for example.
Declan Rice.
Yeah, like that money was definitely spent better elsewhere, but they just, you know, because they were on a mission to get him, you know, they didn't notice the fact that they already had probably someone who's, you know, Greenwood, obviously his situation is different now, but we had someone who was probably as good, if not had more potential from the academy. But that's what, like Steve's saying, maybe he's not as big of a commercial thing, you know, because he has come through the academy and he's not worth that much money yet.
Fantastic. Okay, right. So we're gonna put Stephen Taylor through the fire round next. So don't go anywhere, folks. So the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the halftime show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. What a show we've had in store for you today, and thank you very much for everyone who's locked in on the Instagram live at Omar Adori. Appreciate all your comments, and I will get those questions in segment 4. But right now, it's that time. It's that time. What? It's the fire round time. And now you know that whenever I've had anyone on the show here, we always get to know them a little bit better by throwing things their way. And this is no different. But this time, we've given you the treat of having Stephen Taylor here to do the fire round on the halftime show. So let's get a bit of music on for you. All right, Stephen, you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. Toughest opponent faced?
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Really?
Yeah, he's the difficult. Yeah.
You played some big beast.
He always caused me problems.
Okay. Best manager you played for?
Sir Bobby Robson.
Best advice ever given?
Probably my dad. He's just before I started making my debut and stuff, he just said, "Listen, I'm proud whether you win, lose or draw." And I said, "Don't be saying that to me. That's not enough. I need to make sure you're happy, and I think make your family proud more than anything. Just never disappoint them."
Brilliant. Most memorable team talk, and if you remember what game it was?
I think it would have been the Sunderland game, Newcastle. We won 3-2, and Emery scores the free kick. I think it was before the game. He just showed put a motivational video of Newcastle fans, and just as we watching before the game, just all about them. He didn't really say much. He just showed about the fans, about a young boy, how he falls in love with Newcastle United by going to the game with his dad, and about Bobby Robson. It's just all about what it means to the city. And I think for me then, that the words was it. He finished the video, he walked out, we went out. That was enough motivation for us, and we ended up winning the game.
Nice. Biggest character at Gulf United FC from the players?
The biggest character, I think for me, my leader, my captain, Jacko. He is literally everything you want in a captain. I think for me to obviously speak with Geordie, what we want to get across the team. He's like the manager on the pitch. So for me, I love that around the place. His banter with the lads, he's very quick with his tongue with the boys, and they love him. He's got that kind of respect. So for me to see that is it's refreshing.
If you could relive a single moment in your football career, what would it be?
I think playing against Sunderland again at St James Park and winning. That feeling when you beat your rivals for professional footballer from Newcastle United. The main thing is that's the only fixture you look at the start of the season. When you play Sunderland home and away, that was always the number one game.
Wicked. Pep or Klopp?
I'm going to go Klopp here. I know a lot of people like the Pep, but I think with the Klopp, the way he trains his players, I think I've had an experience speaking to Gini Wijnaldum, playing with him and understanding the way Klopp did it. I love his work ethic. Sir
Alex or Wenger?
Sir Alex Ferguson, all day, yeah.
I know you're happy with that one.
Got to
be. Terry or Rio?
John Terry for me. I think as a defender, when I look up to a defender, that's one of the kind of guys I wanted to be based around, is no nonsense defending, but he just he took things in the face. He's an animal. I think as a leader as well, you see what he's won. I think his record speaks for itself, but as an all-round his performances, he lead by example every game.
Best captain you ever played for?
Easy one, Alan Shearer. I think for me, growing up as a young kid watching him play, and he's like a god in Newcastle, and I think for me to be a very lucky lad to play in the first team with him, and it was an incredible experience.
Nice. Favourite cheat meal?
Favourite cheat meal? Well, my favourite meal is Sunday dinner, so there was always a big thing for me is enjoy my Sunday dinner with family time, and still to this day Sunday dinner is my favourite.
How do you reset?
No reset. I'm always on the jet ski. I like to switch off. I get out in the ocean, and that's my kind of switch off button. I just get out there and switch off from everything. Nice.
Any superstitions?
No, because I always believe that if you think of that, I need to do this, I haven't done that, so I'm going to have a bad game. I go in every game just believing I'm going to be the best centre back on the pitch. Confidence was there. I feel sorry for whoever I'm going to play against. I just had that mindset of I had a chip in the shoulder at very young ages. I had to mind that I had to play. I should be playing, and I never wanted to overthink. I didn't have my right sock on first, so I'm going to have a bad game today. For me, it was I sort of feel sorry for who I've got to play against.
Nice. Sit around a table with three people, dead or alive. Who would it be?
I think I like Denzel Washington. For me, one of my favourite actors. I think we'll go for Sir Bobby Robson. My first manager who gave me the opportunities to do what I've done today. And I think probably I'd probably go Kevin Keegan as well. I think the guys there, I'm going a bit footballish there, but for me, those guys are giving us wild a lot.
That's going to be one conversation: Denzel, Sir Bobby, and Kevin Keegan. All right, Lee Bowyer versus Kieran Dyer. Who wins?
Oof. I think Lee Bowyer. I think it was the funniest thing when obviously I got my handball that game and they come in, but it was all handbags and they're good mates, and that's what happens.
I was coming to that next, actually.
Yeah, it was all good fun in the games. I think that they're just a bit of handbags more than anything, but actually they're good guys.
Yeah. By the way, that's some agility in that little flex you did with the handball. That was.
I don't know how I didn't break my back. If you look at the video, I don't know how my back didn't snap, and I'm still surprised to this day.
I was going to say, and by the way, he's fit as a fiddle as well. I played against him recently. Boy, he can move. I would have busted my back for life. Again, you mentioned Kevin Keegan and Sir Bobby Robson. What was it like being under them? What kind of good memories do you have from those two?
I think the biggest thing with Sir Bobby Robson was the arm around. There's a time before I made my debut, and I'd knock on his door, and after I think they got beat on a Saturday, and I've gone in on a Monday morning, and I told the players, I said, listen, I'm going to go and see him and tell him I should be playing. And the boys were obviously egging me on, as they do the experienced players to the young lads, say, yeah, you won't say that. And I said, no, I'm going to say that. Trust me. So I go in there, knock on his door, and you can see I'm not happy. Straight away, you can see I'm not happy. So I sit down, and before I got my words out, he just started talking about my dad and my family. He said, how's your dad doing? Started talking, and I didn't want to talk about anything else. I was like disappointed. I want to be playing. And we're talking about my dad and my family, and end of the thing, I getting out the room, didn't even get my words out of my mouth. He's got his arm around me, walking down the corridor. It was just his man management, the way he treated us, the way he was, and he'd give us that belief of, listen, you're going to be a big player for me. And just gives that kind of confidence, having someone like that speak to you, and when you made my debut, arm around, go, listen son, just go and enjoy it. No pressure whatsoever. And Kevin Keegan was the exact same. He's just full of confidence. There's sometimes I've made a mistake, you go, listen, I don't care if you make the biggest mistake, just keep getting that ball, keep enjoying it. And that was the big thing for me. I just didn't feel like a disappointment.
Amazing. All right, 30 seconds. We're going to shoot this one quickly. Premier League or Euros? Would you win the Premier League?
Premier League.
Champions League or World Cup?
World Cup.
Head coach or manager?
Manager.
Why did a chicken cross the road?
Get you aside.
Your experience on the halftime show?
Loved it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, pleasure. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We've got the Adhan prayer coming on, but as soon as we get back, we've got a final segment. So if you have any questions for Stephen or Geordie, please shoot them our way, and we'll be right back to you after this. Don't go anywhere, folks. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time, and it's almost full time on the Halftime Show. What a show it's been so far. I'm actually enjoying the chat off air, like I said, as much on. And thank you everyone who was sending their messages on the Instagram live. We're going to try and get all those questions in before we wrap up in the next couple of minutes. Thank you boys for coming. It's been great having you guys here. Okay, so question from Shakib for Stephen. Quick summary of your experience in both MLS and ISL.
MLS was good, straight from obviously leaving Newcastle, flying out there, and it was at Portland Timbers. And I remember the home games, I think we were unbeaten, and scoring, I think, in Seattle at the Timbers. And I think that was a great feeling, getting the wood at the end of the game and stuff like that. So winning, I think 5-2 won. What a feeling that was as well. But the atmospheres are very good. I think it was just a matter of time before it took off. I think it was a year later where Atlanta came into the league, and you can see on the transition the league was obviously going to get better. The South American players coming up there, the American players, how much they've improved. I think before I got there 5 years previously, I don't think it's anywhere near the standard, and obviously the money that's in the game now, it's a top league. And I think with the ISL, it was it's difficult. I think a lot of the Indian players, they're at the top clubs, and it's very difficult for the teams. I would say the bottom four sides they lose their best players quite early on to the main guys. The top boys take the best ones really, and it's very difficult unless you got the good foreigners that can help the Indians. You can be good, but a lot of people struggle there by not looking after the Indians. You have the best ones.
Geordie, quick question for you. What's coming up for Gulf United, and where can the listeners follow you?
So we're already 2 games into the season. We play in our next game is this Sunday at Jebel Ali, and we are actually launching a YouTube, so you can follow our journey. Each episode's going to be that week in training plus the game and the reaction, so you'll be able to follow it through that, and you can also follow us on Instagram at Gulf United FC.
Fantastic. We got to give a shout out to Coach Mo as well. I have to give him a shout out.
Yeah,
I won't hear the end of it otherwise. No, shout out to Coach Mo and Gulf United and everyone in the team. Stephen, also with what's going on now, who's going to win the Premier League?
I still think Man City. I think with watching them yesterday against Man United, the way they play, it's going to be very difficult for Liverpool to go to Manchester City as well, to go and take the game to them, because Pep's, I think, even said when teams come and press, it's just a matter of time before they pick you off, and the quality that they've got, I think they can hurt them. I think they'll hurt Liverpool.
And who's the top 4 race is really heating up at the moment now. Who do you guys think is going to finish in the top 4?
I think Arsenal, unfortunately. 3 games back and a point ahead. We're not really a team who's going to win every game. think West Ham dropped off a little bit there. You know, they always struggle with squad depth. They've got good players, but if one or two go down, they're in trouble. And you know, Spurs are Spursy. So
yeah. I just wanted him to say that. That's all. I didn't mind the other stuff. Just as long as he said Spurs are Spursy, I would have been happy. But you know, talking about Arsenal, even though Arsenal have to play Liverpool, United, Tottenham, you still think that?
I just can't see Man United being consistent enough to do it. Like I say, 3 games back, point ahead. You know, I think it's not completely over, but I think it would be a bit of a bottle from Arsenal if they blew it from this point.
That'll kill me. Stephen, what about you? Top 4?
No, I think with Arsenal, I can see them definitely getting there. I do think Manchester United will drop out.
Chelsea,
yeah, 100%.
Fantastic, and that is full time. There you go. We got the whistle in the end. Thanks, guys. It's full time on the halftime show. Thank you very much for tuning in. You catch it every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Really
Fantastic.
you.
Top guys. Stay tuned for more on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95. Have a blessed day, people. I'm out.
If you liked this episode of the Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.